Hello.
Hi.
Is there anything, Wendy, that you would like to share with the group about your meeting the other day with Alicia? You don't have to. I'm just saying, if there's anything that you think would be valuable for everybody, you're welcome to.
Well, I could gobble up our whole time talking about it, so I won't do that. I will just say very briefly, it was I didn't know what to expect working with Alicia, and it was enlightening and eye-opening. She's a very interesting person, has a different approach to working with dogs than I've been exposed to before. And it was actually very emotional for me because it ended up being very introspective. I'm old school, and I think when a dog has an issue, a behavior that we want to work on, you work on the dog. And I honestly think that Alicia was working on Amber's physical structure, and she was working on my emotional structure at the same time. And that was challenging for me because I'm not used to opening up to people in that kind of way. But bottom line, she's a firm believer in that the energy we create has, correct me if I'm wrong, Marilyn, but from her perspective, she thinks that has more impact on how our dogs behave and respond in situations than the technical training that we tend to focus on as the solution to issues. Is that kind of the perception you
Yes,
have as
yeah,
well?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Right. And she and I agree on one thing. I don't agree with everything she does, but it's not up to me to agree or disagree. That's,
Right.
her process. Um, but we definitely agree on the fact that the emotional state of the person and the dog, and she calls it the energy field around us, and we can all sense that. I mean, you sense an energy field all the time. We don't give much thought to it, but if you walk into a room and there's tension, the energy is tense. I mean, you just sense it right away. Nobody doesn't have to, people don't have to say a word, you can sense it. So the energy is the foundation.
Yeah.
You have to have that foundation firmly in place. Otherwise, the technical training piece is not going to help. There's always going to be an emotion, an unmet emotional need that's going to impact the dog's ability to perform, because the cognitive brain and the emotional brain, there's medical terms for this, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert in that part of it. But the cognitive brain and the emotional brain have to be talking to each other. And if the emotional brain gets into fight or flight and gets anxious and scared and thinking that there's a threat out there, because I'm picking up in my energy field that there's threatening, now maybe we're sending that energy to the dog. And if the dog is picking that up and saying, I have to handle this, I can't be concerned with that performance part, which the dog's cognitive brain knows those things. But when the emotional brain has to deal with a threat, the cognitive brain has to just shut down and, close the store temporarily until that other thing is taken care of. So that's the foundation. It's survival. If an animal feels unsafe or feels as if their survival is somehow at risk, they're not going to learn anything new. All they're going to do is try to save themselves. And that's just built in, hardwired into all of us and into dogs as well. So
I have noticed since our session, I have been trying to be more grounded, for lack of a better word. And when Amber goes to the window and barks at something, I've tried to be not that I wasn't trying to be calm before, but I think I'm trying to be like more definitive, like that's just the neighbor walking down the street. He walks down the street every day. Go ahead, look at him, but there's absolutely nothing that you need to do about this situation. And so she's been responsive to that. And what I've noticed is that her attention to what is going on outside is calmer. Instead of bark, 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 now it's woof and look at me. I just saw something. Are you going to check it out? Let me know it's okay. So I think that's a good thing. That's an improvement.
right.
And I'll also add that yesterday afternoon, I had the opportunity to do another session with Suzanne Clothier, something that she called connection coaching. So it was all about the connection between me and Amber and the other handlers and their dogs. So it's like, I'm kind of a little bit on overload at the moment.
Yeah.
And, it's hard.
Okay. Yeah.
Alicia is very interesting. I don't know that I can jump over 100% to the Alicia main camp, but I'm going to take what I can from it.
Yeah.
And the same with Suzanne Clothier and the same with you, Meryl. So it's kind of like, oh my goodness.
You have,
smorgasbord of experts this weekend.
Yeah. So, what I say to everybody, I'll say it to you again, is you be you, and you absorb what you're ready to absorb, and whatever you're not ready for, you're not ready for. It's not, this is not a cookie cutter approach where everybody has to do exactly the same thing in exactly the same order, because this process, first of all, it's not a linear process. So everybody is going to apply it in their own individual way, based on their personality, based on the relationship they have with their dog, what their goals are. I mean, there's so many variables, and that's why it's a very individual thing. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to just hook, line, and sinker take everything. Take what take what's valuable to
my
you.
analytical brain would love to be able to do that. I would love to have somebody give me 1, 2, 3, ABC, and I'll say, okay, I'll do that.
It might exist. It might exist in the engineering world.
I know.
But in the education world, it's there's no such thing as, a cookie cutter and this is it. 1, 2, 3, you do this and you're done. Because it's very individual. That's a good thing. It can also be a very frustrating thing if you're somebody who likes to have clear-cut directions. Do this, you'll get this result. But yeah, it doesn't work that way all the time. Sorry. Sorry to break it to you, but it doesn't.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah. But
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I was very curious, Wendy, because I was going to do it as well, and then I couldn't really agree to all the things that she wanted.
I was going to ask you. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I didn't do it, but I was very curious. Did the energy work with your dog?
Body alignment on the dog.
But okay, and did you notice a difference in that? Can you say?
I have not noticed difference in Amber's movement, and I have taken videos that she has asked for, seeing Amber move in both directions. And actually, right before our session started, I had my husband film a little exercise I do with Amber on a regular basis, so that you can see her turning both right and left, because what Alicia found in working with Amber's structure was that she was a little off, more comfortable right then left. And I confirmed that when I teach her, like if I teach her a trick or a movement or something, she can get it very quickly if she's going around to the right and going around to the left. You know, maybe it's a little wider, maybe it takes her a little longer to get comfortable moving that way. And actually, Marilyn has seen a couple of agility videos from my classes, and where Amber has struggled a little bit have been in like left turning tunnels, that type of thing. So as far as her movement yesterday and today, I haven't noticed much of a change. She was on the little exercise I did where she goes around the cone, she seemed to me equally comfortable going right and left. But what I have noticed in her is an overall calmness. And she's a high energy dog, and she's always on alert. I mean, she's a hunting breed, so you know there's a limit to what you can take out of her. But she has seemed, and even my husband has noticed, that she seems generally a little more calm, and maybe that's a function of having what wasn't quite in alignment put back in alignment. I don't know, but I'll take the extra calm.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's also the question of when she stops in the middle of an agility run and appears to just like check out or get distracted. My question, I don't know the answer to this. My question is, did that, whatever move she just did, whether it was a jump or whether a turn or whatever it was, did that make her feel uncomfortable in some way? Did it trigger some discomfort in her spine and something? And so she just kind of like pulled back a little bit and went, ouch, ooh, that doesn't feel good, and just stopped. I don't know.
Well, we'll test it out tomorrow night at class.
Yeah, take videos.
Yeah.
Take
I've already told Peter, hold the camera like this, not that.
Yeah, that you can see so much more. Like I tell people that all the time, you can get such a better view of what's going on if you do that. So Nancy, just to comment on your earlier question, when she was talking about energy, what she meant was pretty much what we've been talking about from the beginning, is to model a calm and focused energy for the dog when the dog is getting aroused. Don't buy into the dog's arousal by getting all upset yourself. Be, it's kind of what we've been saying along. Did you get that?
Yes.
Wendy? Yeah,
Yes.
that's what she meant. Like let your calm, focused, relaxed energy embrace the dog. So she talked about it as a bubble. Just kind of expanding so that your energy field, whatever, embraces the dog as well. And I don't think it has to do that much about distance as much as it does about the mental emotional connection.
Right.
I think the dog could be right next to you and you not be connected to the dog, and the dog could be
been there, done that.
across the field from you, and you could be very much in sync with the dog. So I don't think it's so much distance as it is that just that mental, energetic, emotional connection. And
it actually is, because this afternoon I was in the kitchen, Amber was upstairs. I heard her woof out the window, and from the kitchen I said, not to worry, Amber, everything is under control. Thanks for the alert, you're done. And she came down to the kitchen to be with me, and there was not another peep out of her.
Good.
So, I think that's improvement.
Just a suggestion, because what I'm hearing when you're talking to her and being, calm and relaxed, is I still hear you giving her directions about what you want her to do. So you're saying, that's, so-and-so walking down the street. You don't need to pay attention to that, something to that effect. I don't remember your exact words.
And I just tell her she doesn't need to worry about it.
Yes. So that's kind of telling her what to do.
Okay.
So just my little picky thought here.
Please.
Instead of instead of wording it that way, because our words have power, our words reflect our thoughts. So instead of wording it that way, phrase it more as a question. Oh, what are you looking at? Oh, I see that too. Yeah. You know, and just don't tell her she doesn't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Because if this were a human and it was a person who maybe had some kind of anxiety disorder and got all upset when they saw somebody walking down the street, would it be more helpful to go over to the person and say, you don't have to worry about that? Or to go over to the person and say, what do you, now a person can answer you in words, obviously the dog can't, but to say, what are you looking at? And have the person describe what they're looking at. So it's her perception that is going to matter in the long run. And we can't dictate how somebody else perceives something,
Okay.
whether it's an animal or another human. That has to be their decision.
Yeah.
So
That was something I struggled with Alicia, because at the end of our session, and Marilyn, I don't know if you were still there when she was saying that, because I know you had another appointment. She said, like, she doesn't talk at all. She uses her body positioning language to let the dog know what's what, and then she'll give him a nice, solid pat on the side. She doesn't rely on words, and she doesn't rely on food reinforcers, and that is very different from what I do with Amber. And it's I can't stop myself from talking to the dog. And I also know from my dog, if you give her a nice big pat on the side, she's going to be insulted. That's not a reward for her. So yeah.
Same thing. You be you, you do what you do with your dog. But body language, and you know this from agility, that the way you use your body, and this is true for all of you,
Right.
the way you use your body communicates with the dog.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about how most dogs will react when you start to get ready to take them for a walk, even before you pick up a leash or something, or if you're going to take them for a ride in the car, or if you're going to leave them home. That they have a way of picking up on the tiniest little things that changes in your body language. So how much more effective can you be if you intentionally use your body language to communicate? But words are important too, because words reflect our thoughts, and our tone of voice when we say the words are very important. Our voice is a powerful tool. So it's a piece of the whole picture, and it's part of it. So, okay, anybody else have a question about anything? As far as I know, I don't know if any of the others of you are interested, but as far as I know, Alicia did have 2 openings. So there might be another opening. If any of you are interested, you can let me know and I'll put you in touch with her, and you can follow up if you want. So
Marilyn,
yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I this happens with learning so often. You feel as if you're in the saddle, and then whoa, something throws you. I was really feeling comfortable with Noelle, with the talking at the window and saying, yeah, how about that? And what do you want to do now? And she'd turn and change directions. This business of clicking while she's looking at something, and we spoke about this in our one-on-one. I'm finding that the click, even though I've worked really hard to have the timing right, not on the training part, but when she's randomly barking, I just don't get it. And I have found that if I just walk toward the cupboard where I keep her treats, if she's barking, she will stop barking and come over to me like, hello, about time you got the message, lady. And I'll give her a treat, and then she'll stop barking at the window. So I feel as if I'm kind of sideswiping your instruction with the click,
Yeah.
but I can't seem to get that to mean anything.
Okay, let me make sure I understand your question, because nobody has to use the clicker. That
Right.
was just one tool, one option, one way to mark the dog and create a positive, so create a different conditioned emotional response for looking at the thing, because
Mhm.
looking at the thing was creating that over arousal, that
Right.
anxiety. So the purpose of the click is, number one, the click has to be, you have to create the connection between the click and getting food.
Right.
So what you're doing when you walk to the cupboard where the treats are is it's almost serving the same function as a click, except it's really specific. And if you if you happen to be in another place where you weren't close to where the cupboard was, you might have a hard time making that connection.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
That at least the clicker is mobile. You can use it anywhere.
Right.
But again, I'm not saying that to persuade you or to insist in any way that you have to use it, because you don't have to use it
Sure.
if it's awkward. If it's awkward and uncomfortable, um and you really are not into it, then you don't have to use it. But if you don't get what it's for, then I can explain that. Is that your question, that you don't get what it's for?
You explained it really well, and I love the order of it. I love the sensible nature of that kind of
Mhm.
rhythm and connection and response. I'm just not terribly good at it, and I guess that's okay. Maybe it isn't something I have to get good at. She's so responsive when we're doing an actual training session where I click, and I treat. I mean, that's all almost old and
Why don't you start using it sounds like you're overthinking it.
probably.
Big
Mhm.
surprise, right?
Right. What else is new?
So
Yeah.
that's what it sounds like. So
Okay.
what I suggest you do is just take it away from that context of where you're clicking her for barking at the thing, whatever the thing is, um, and start using the clicker for little ordinary things but don't do it spur of the moment. Plan it. So you
Oh,
have your treats, you have your clicker, you know you know what your criteria is. You're going to spend maybe 1 minute is all. And you're going to click her. What is something that she does easily? Some cue that she responds to super easy.
oh, she her crate. We call her Casa. She responds immediately if you say Casa. She runs right to her crate. She
All
does
right,
that
you
really
could do
quickly.
that. Then you can say casa. Oh, I like that. Casa. And then now you have to decide, because going into the crate, first she looks at it, then she walks toward it, then her front feet go in, then her back feet go in. So when I would teach people how to get their dogs to willingly go in the crate, like you're describing, I tell them not to reinforce it until all 4 feet are in the crate. So that's a possible criteria. You could click that. When her last hind foot touches the inside of the crate, you can click that. You can
Huh.
click anything you want. You can click it when she looks at the crate. It doesn't matter. The point is that you decide on what your criteria is for that particular training session, and you stick with it consistently. You click only that one specific thing for that training session. And the purpose would be not so much to teach the dog anything, because she's already doing it.
Right.
The purpose is for you to get comfortable clicking at the right time.
Got it. Thank you. That makes perfect sense.
So, and there's no right or wrong time. It just depends on what your criteria is. So if your criteria is you're going to click when she turns her head and looks at the crate, then that's what you stick with.
Okay.
If you're going to click when she puts her first paw in the crate, then that's it. So you're just going to get practice with that. And then after you do that for a while, you can decide if you want to try it at the window
Okay,
and see how that feels.
good. Thank you. That makes sense.
All right, good. Anybody else? Yeah, Nancy, you wanted to ask.
Yeah, it kind of related to that. I feel
Okay.
like, I've done it. I've done the clicker when Zoe's outside on her long lead and she's barking up at the farm. There's people out there. And so what happens is there's a lot of cues that I'm coming, because then, I'm opening the door and then she stops and she looks at me and I just say, oh, there's something up there that's bothering you. And so what I'm trying to do is wait until she looks up at the hill again and then click and then treat. And it feels like it's successful, but I still get this kind of like, oh, you're out here. You're going to give me a treat.
That's okay. That would be just normal, I think. Because it's unusual for you to actually go out there with her when she's on the line, right? I mean, you don't normally.
Except for when she barks. I mean, I do like, that's very, yeah, but what's unusual is that I go out there and I give her this delicious treat. I mean, these are the sheep livers that are being cooked.
Would she still be barking at the people on the farm over there where she's looking? Would she still be barking if you were standing right there? Or would that be so distracting that she would quit barking and just look at you?
She'll usually stop for a little bit when I come out and she'll kind of look at me. But I think that with the treat, what's different is that she's now like super excited to see me because she knows she's getting this big treat. And so what happens if I either situation, with or without the treat, eventually she's going to look back up. And so what I'm doing now is when she looks back up, because you said it's about looking, not about the barking, right? So when she looks back up, then I'll click and give her the treat again. And I guess it's just a little bit of like, it feels a little awkward because I'm like, I want her to look so I can give her the treat. But now she's really excited about looking at me because she really wants that treat. She doesn't really care so much about it there.
Yeah, just let her work through it. Now, maybe I misunderstood, but so you take her out, you put her on the line, you're in the house, she barks and you click while you're in the house, but you
no. So I come outside.
Okay.
Yeah, I come outside. And so she's going to look at me, but then I'll wait and she's going to look up there and then I'll click and treat.
Yeah.
But so like I did that a couple times this morning, and the second time I did it, she was like so excited because, oh, you're back out again. Am I going to get these great treats?
That's okay. She's got it figured out. She's anticipating it. And what she'll figure out if you're consistent with your criteria and click her for looking over there, she's going to start to associate looking over there with getting a treat.
Okay.
So she's going to look, you click when she looks, and then you give her a treat. And then, so does the barking get less when
Yes.
you're out there? There you go.
Yes. And I think that as I'm talking through that, one of the hard things for me is that when I come outside and she's sitting and she's looking at me like, please, 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 please give me another one of those treats. But I'm not supposed to until she looks, right?
That's the deal. That's
Okay.
the deal. Yeah. She'll figure it out.
Okay.
She'll figure it out. But yeah. And here's the thing. You know what random reinforcement is? Does that ring a bell?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Random reinforcement is rewards that happen unpredictably. And the best example is playing slot machines. You keep putting quarters in and quarters in and quarters in, and you never know whether you're going to get the jackpot or not. You might get nothing, but you might get a lot. And the jackpots happen just often enough to keep people trying. That's random reinforcement. So if you say just one time, oh, I'm just going to give you some treats without, having her do that, that becomes random reinforcement. So you just really undermined your whole process by doing that. So word to the wise, random reinforcement is very, very powerful. There's a lot of negative examples of that too, which I won't go into because they're nasty, but the obvious example is the slot machines. So no random stick to your criteria. She has to look in order to get the treats. And even though she's all excited, that's great that she's excited like that. I love that. I would rather see her excited like that than be all anxious and barky and you know, worried about what's going on. So, okay. Anybody else have, yeah, Julie.
Hi, yeah, I was really skeptical the clicker would make a difference for us, but he is responding really well to it.
Good.
It seems to like take the energy out of the intensity of the situation. I haven't tried it upstairs, which is our main stimulus part. The weather's been kind of iffy here, but downstairs at the window where he has kind of like a limited exposure to the thing, you know, he goes up on this little stool so he can look out the window, his front legs on there. And when I click, he immediately looks at me. It's like, you know, so Pavlovian at this point. And sometimes if it's like the UPS truck sitting out there making a delivery or coming to the door, I know I put one of these in the chat without a video, but if they're there long enough, sometimes he'll take the treat and then go back to the window to look again. But then I click that. But if it's a short duration thing, immediately once I click and treat, he's just kind of done. Like it gives him I mean, kind of like what we were trying to do with our voices, something else to do. And I'm finding it's much more effective than me using my voice. I mean, I'm still talking to him, but I think I was, as you all know, I was kind of struggling before with like having the right tone of voice to use with him that was, you know, not stimulating. And the clicker seems to, I don't know, just really work for him. He just, and I guess I'm,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm wondering so with him, because he's so food motivated, if I were to just, you know, sit here, like if, you know, sit anywhere really with treats next to me and the clicker nearby, he would probably choose to just sit there and stare at the treat pouch for like an hour. So I'm wondering, like, I don't know how to kind of have the treats available without sort of redirecting the whole thing towards him staring at the treat pouch for an hour or a bowl of something, like, because, you know, I've shared this before, like when I'm eating dinner, he's not going to bother barking at something. He's going to be focused on me eating dinner. And then as soon as I'm done eating dinner, he'll go to the door and start barking at something. So it's kind of like, I'm just like, can we eventually get to the point where we just click and don't reward? Is that ever going to be for a food motivated dog? And
so the rule of thumb with a clicker is that it's always associated with a food reward.
Okay.
So, but I hear what you're saying about him being really distracted by the food, and I'm trying to think if there's a way, but there isn't. As soon as the words started to come out of my mouth, I said, well, this is really stupid. A way to hide food from him? No, I don't think so.
I know, that's the thing. There's no way.
Yeah.
Like even if I had it in my pocket, he'd be like,
yeah,
I know you've got something in your pocket. How long is it going to take for you to give it to me? But actually, just to be,
Marilyn, you'll correct me if it's not right, but the click is the promise of the reward. So if you were to keep the food, say, you know, on your kitchen counter, and the behavior happens wherever it happens in your house, and you catch it and you click, and you both run to the kitchen counter now to get that reward, is that not equally reinforcing? And it keeps you from having to carry around your bowl of treats or something, or
what do you think, Julie?
that's what we've been doing. And it does seem like if the treats are like, if they're right next to me, I think he thinks it's like the training exercise we did in the beginning where it was click treat. And of course he thinks that's really fun. But yeah, if I put it in a little bit further away, Like I actually just did that at the beginning of the meeting. I stepped up for a second, but he was barking outside and I grabbed the clicker in the pouch and he was still barking and I clicked it he could hear through the window and came to the door. I gave him a treat. I put the treat pouch, like 4 or 5 feet away from me and sat down and, he licked me for a little bit and then he laid down and then he ignored it. So it does seem like if there's a little bit of a separation, it works. So I think that's probably the key, is not like have it right next to me or have it in the treat pouch on me, because then he thinks, we're actively doing something.
Right.
So
it sounds like the process of clicking him when he's starting to get in that arousal state while he's still under threshold, and that's really important, because if the dog is over threshold, this is not going to work. It seems to interrupt that whole cycle.
It does.
And brings him back and grounds him. So that's what it's supposed to do. I mean, ideally, that's the textbook version of what it's supposed to do.
And it seems for his personality to be so much more effective than me saying something to him.
Right.
It's so quick. And I did buy that little 4-pack that you suggested, and I kind of have them around the house. I originally bought like probably the one that Wendy hates the most, the really loud metal clicky one. And so the first time I used the little plastic one, he kind of went, is that the same thing? So it took him maybe like a couple of clicks with the plastic one to go, okay, same routine, I still get food. But the plastic ones
are interesting that he picked up the difference, because I mean, it is a different sound.
Yeah, but then once I reinforced it, he realized they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
and the beauty, it's interesting what you say about your voice and the clicker, because one of the benefits of using a clicker is that the sound is neutral, that it doesn't have any emotional baggage attached to it, and it's unique. It doesn't sound like anything else.
Yeah, and you and I had talked about that in our individual session, that like, and I think we probably all realize this about ourselves, like if you're irritated, you're not going to sound the same way when you're like, it's going to be like, it's no big deal, instead of it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Right. So I know that about myself, that he's going to pick up on any little modulation. So the clicker neutralizes all that. So he seems to be responding pretty well to it. I'm curious what it'll be like when we try it in a higher stimulus environment, but I think he's probably ready for that, because we've been kind of increasing the, I guess, exposure or whatever. So
yeah, and sometimes when you change environment like that, and you're going from low stimulus to high, there's a setback. There's a little bit of backtracking. So expect that and don't worry about it. It's normal.
When I did buy that snuffle mat you suggested, so I was almost thinking that might, rather than just like the treat from my hand, which is a microsecond if you're Ula, and then he could just run back to the door. I'm thinking if I bust out, instead of the treat pouch, the snuffle mat, it would distract him for maybe a minute to have to search around for snacks, and then maybe by then they will have walked by or something. I found that he was even interested in it when I used his like boring old kibble scattered in there, just finding it, and he was pushing it around and stuff. So I don't know if he'll get bored of it. He probably will, but at least for now, it seems like I'm going to try introducing that when we do the test kind of in the other area.
Yeah.
We'll
yeah, that sounds great. That sounds like a really good idea. The more you can give him to do, his mind is just always going.
Yeah.
The more you give him to do, the better.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that he's responding to this kind of an interruption, and the fact that it's a neutral sound, and apparently what you're saying is what was going on is that your voice had so much, he was so distracted trying to figure out where, what you meant and all of that, because of there's always going to be emotion in our voice. It's going to be something. But the clicker is just like a little robot.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when you think about it, I've been scolding him for years, probably for that behavior. So to shift to, oh, what are you looking at? He's probably like, what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean? I think, he's been doing the behavior. I've not had a positive response to the behavior for years. So I think for the dog, it's probably like, what are we doing now? Like, I don't get it. So I think, yeah, just the clicker is like a brand new thing and there's no baggage associated with it. So, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, I was skeptical when you first introduced it, but it, does seem to be working for.
It seems
Yeah.
like most of these things inspire skepticism. Take a breath, go, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody
Yeah.
else? Trish, how are you doing? We haven't spoken in a while.
Well, we're at the wrong time of year to see kids at the park. By the time I get off work, it's dark. So, and Shadow is not a barker. So, what I need to work on with children is it's just not the right time of year to find kids at the park. And the weather's not been too conducive either.
Right.
Because it's been rainy. So as far as that goes, we're kind of on a holding pattern for working with the kids. I went back and reinforcing the deep breathing and working with the clicker, but not on our specific issue just because of, other factors.
I also think that continuing to do the free work exercises with him, indoors and outdoors. Of course, if it's dark, you don't want to do it outdoors, but it's so easy to set up little stations indoors and you can just improvise things that you have around the house. So you have a snuffle mat, you have all kinds of little things that you can use, and just send him. It's almost like a scavenger hunt, and just and getting. And one of the things I wanted to emphasize, I don't know if I've emphasized it with you all enough, is the importance of movement. So getting them moving. So even if they bark at the window and then leave and then go back and bark at the window, the movement has some value. And I think I've said to you before that for animals, movement is safety, movement is survival. Animals that can't move are at risk. They're probably not going to survive. So so the more you can do with free movement, so the leash walks, with the long leash walks, the sniff walks, those are valuable because the dog is relatively free. But with free work, what they even advise for that is to just take the dog's collar off. So the dog has nothing, is wearing nothing at all, no collar, no harness, nothing. And so they just have complete freedom of movement of their bodies. And as they're going around, they're finding things on the floor level, finding things like a little bit elevated, and then things that are a little bit higher, no higher than their shoulder, I would say. And some of there's different textures that they're walking on. You can get a tarp and put it on the floor, and have them walk over that. Or you can do like a yoga mat and then like a fluffy bath mat that's like all shaggy and fluffy. And you can scatter treats on the floor. There's so many different ways that you can be creative about this and get the dog moving. It gives you an opportunity to sit back and let the dog make the choices and also observe the dog's movement. It's like, when we talked about Amber and we noticed that she was having difficulty moving to the left, and part of Alicia's evaluation was that she was a little bit, her muscles or her I guess her muscles or her spine was a little bit tighter,
She was shifted. Everything left was
shifted to the,
forward of right. So when she turned right, it was free move. And when she turned left, she had her left side blocking her.
yeah.
So
So
she just
you can look for something like that in free work. You can give the dog an opportunity to turn in both directions, and it's up to them whether they do. And some of the videos, there was one video I remember watching, and this was a very senior lab, and he moves through the course, pretty much moving he was moving to the left, and when he stopped at the different stations, he would like arc his body to the left in order to take the food or in order to lick. And it turns out that that's a physical thing going on with him. The owners were aware of it, but had you not been aware of it, it would have been something that you could have observed, because I didn't know the dog at all and it was obvious to me. So do that and notice, are they turning in both directions with equal ease, or do they seem a little bit stiffer going in one direction as opposed to the other? How are they moving with their legs? Do they bring their hind legs underneath them as they're walking, or are they kind of stiff with their back legs? That would mean there was something in the hip area that might be bothering them. So, those are all things that you can observe, giving the dog the freedom to move. And just the fact that he's moving freely and searching, so he's using his nose, his whole olfactory system, which is connected to the learning part of the brain, the decision making, the executive function of the brain. It's all connected to a dog's olfactory system. So the more you give him to search and sniff, chewing, licking, all of those things are comforting behaviors for dogs. So do a lot more of the free work and be creative how you set it up. You don't have to have a lot of stations. You could have 3 or 4, and it could take the dog, a minute or 2 to go through them. You can deliberately put things in there that will slow him down, like you can do licking things that, because he's going to take some time. If it's a lick mat, it's going to take him a little time. You can also give him something to chew, like not a rawhide, but some kind of a chewy thing that he can chew through maybe in a minute or 2. I know that some of my dogs go through a bully stick before I even turn around. They've gone through a bully stick, and others will like nurse it for hours. So it just depends on the dog, but do a lot of that. So Trish, I think if you do that, and you can, you can do it indoors in the evening with him, it'll only take a few minutes. Just set up something and take some videos, and just, even if you don't, I mean, you can definitely send them to me. I'd be very interested in seeing them. But even if you don't send them to me, look at them yourself, because like I always say, in real time, we miss so much of what's going on. And when you go back and look at something on a video, you can really, really see a lot. So that's what I would suggest. And then as far as the kids are concerned, is there anything you could do on a weekend? Even if it's just like for like a half hour?
I just haven't, this has been a particularly busy weekend, so it
And
wasn't
it's gonna get busier, I'm
possible,
sure.
but plus it was rainy too. But yeah, I can try that. and see if the kids are out.
Yeah. Now, is there anything that he looks at that not necessarily barks or gets excited, but if you were just like hanging out with him, either in the back looking at the park or in the front of the house with people walking by, does he really kind of look at something and kind of notice it and watch it as it passes by? I know he doesn't tend to get excited about most things, but does
He
that?
does if since we butt up to the park, the part of the greenway is right behind our house. So if he's in the backyard in the morning when I put him out, he won't stay out unless I'm with him. So yeah, if there's anybody walking, he's sometimes, in fact, he will just sit high enough up on the hill so that he can kind of survey his kingdom. He just likes to sit and watch.
Yeah, so
So-
you can practice clicking him for looking at those things.
Okay.
So they don't arouse him and get him excited. You can still click him. So if you have to go out with him in the morning anyway, put some treats in your pocket and have your clicker handy. And you can see as soon as he like turns his head and notices somebody walking by, click that and give him a treat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Julie?
Oh, I just wanted to say for Trish, I don't know, I don't know your area, obviously, but seems like a sledding hill or something, like once there's actually snow. I would think like kids, you don't have snow? Okay. I was thinking like kids on a sled would probably be the same kind of like, oh my God, as like a kid running or something, but I guess you don't have snow
It
yet.
would, I'm sure.
In upstate New York or Massachusetts, for sure. It would
Okay.
be a sledding hill for sure. Yeah, we don't.
We certainly don't have
If
snow
we
here,
get,
but
if we get it, it's usually melted by noontime.
I have a thought too about
Yeah.
children. Maybe you could find out what time recess is at a local school, and you wouldn't be on the
Oh.
campus, but maybe you could be close enough that he would see these children and you could click away when he's looking at them, because they do
Oh,
have
that's a good idea.
set times for recess, and then you've got your winter vacation coming up in the middle of December, I should think, and there'll be bound to be children all over. But I think if you just,
Yeah.
called a few schools from preschool on up to middle school and just said, just curious, you don't want to be a stalker, but
Or
my-
even when they're dismissed,
yeah,
all
that's pretty
pouring
nice.
out of the school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah,
that's
we
a
have
good
an
idea.
elementary school very close to us, so yeah, I can do that on my day off.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
and then you would definitely have control over your distance, and you could really
Yeah.
get. So in the meantime, while you're waiting to find that out, do that in the morning. Click him for looking at people walking by the park, and you don't have to do
Okay.
it every single time. Just do it like a handful of times, like 5 at the most, and then then you're done.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody else have a question about anything? Okay, did you get a chance to look? It's a long video, but I posted a YouTube video that was a live presentation, I think yesterday. I think it was live yesterday. And it's a presentation by Danielle Beck on getting emotional dogs to self-regulate. Did anybody get a chance to look at that?
I started it, but I didn't get very far.
Yeah, it's long. And then her presentation is about an hour. And then there's like another, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes of Q&A. But for some of these, this is a series. You can subscribe, it's all free. You can subscribe and get every day there's a presentation. I think it's up until the 24th of December.
Yeah.
Wow. But I would like to share my screen because I have, unless it timed out on me, but I did bring up the YouTube video, and all I want to do is just point out some of her slides. She does not, for some of them, you can download the slides. They do give you the download link, but she didn't. And I can see why, because a lot of it is really proprietary information from, you know, her company and what she teaches. But let me just make sure that that thing is still alive and well. Oh, it looks like it is. Awesome. Okay. Sometimes the internet just amazes me. Okay. So here we go. I'm not going to play this for you. I just want to point out some of the slides that are really interesting to look at. And this one, I think, and by the way, this is the well-being, the Heart Dog International Wellbeing Summit. And you can subscribe to that if you Google it. I'm sure that it'll come up. And by the way, if you listen to that, I believe she's from Scotland, and she talks really fast. So some of it is a little hard to understand, but you can always replay it. But anyway, the slides are really, really good. So she's talking about her little symbol for what she teaches is the meerkat. I didn't even know what a meerkat was. It's like a little weasel. And it's either friendly or mean. Sometimes it's friendly and sometimes it's mean. So I guess that's why she picked it. But so that's what this little animal is. And she's talking about the outer bubble, the reactive bubble, and the personal bubble. And this is sort of similar to the polyvagal chart that I showed you, the polyvagal system, the vagus nerve. When the dog is in fight or flight, and people too, they're in this reactive, this middle area here, where you're trying to get distance, you're tense, you're looking, not quite over threshold yet, but just about to go over threshold. And this in the center, this personal bubble, this is a dog that is feeling very threatened, can't avoid the threat, feels trapped. It's like it's coming into my personal space and I can't escape it. And so whatever the dog does at that point, whether it's defensive, whether it looks aggressive, whatever it is, it's an unconscious reaction because they're trying to save themselves. And where they want to be in this is in this outer bubble. So that's just another way of looking at that. And she actually, she talks about the meerkat as like this thing that's sitting on the dog's shoulder. And if the dog gets upset, you blame the meerkat because the meerkat is making the dog upset. And so it's a way of sort of conditioning you not to blame the dog for what the dog is doing, which I thought was really kind of interesting. So this one it's using this, but what she talks about is if you're resting and calm, you're just not reacting to anything. But if you're in that green zone, you're becoming desensitized to what's going on around you. So it's not total rest and relaxation, but you can manage it. You're not overreacting to it. In the orange zone, you're sensing danger. Then when you get to over arousal, this is like this side is shut down. It's a volcano. And when the volcano erupts, boom, it's shut down. So the goal, as she explains, is to increase this green area, get it bigger and bigger and bigger so that there's no need for reactivity. And it, you know, when we talk about deep breathing and teaching the dog to take deep breaths, a lot of this is she talks about physiological reactivity. A lot of it is physical. And you can actually control your own emotions with this deep breathing from your diaphragm, because it actually massages that part of the vagus nerve that helps you feel calm and relaxed. I know somebody who knows all the science behind this would probably be horrified at the way I'm describing it, but I'm describing it as a layperson. So hopefully, let's see, let me go. There was another one that I wanted to show you because we're out of time, and I just wanted to point out, where is that? Okay, I think it was this. And there's a lot on this slide, but it's worth looking at, and it's worth listening to her explanation of it, because a lot of it is about some of the coping skills that we've talked about, but she also introduces other things, and things that you may not have thought about. So it's definitely worth listening to. And if you want to fast forward to this part, it's just a little over 1 hour into it, and it's near the end of her talk, but it's well worth listening to. So I'll stop the share now because I don't want to go over time with you guys. But so the things, what I want to leave you with is increase movement, because this time of year we tend to get a little sedentary. I know I do. So give your dog reasons to move. It's going to help them calm down. Reinforce in whatever way works for you. If the clicker is working for you, fine, keep using it. If it's not, then find a way to start to shift that conditioned emotional response to looking at the thing that the dog is perceiving as a threat. We want to change, we want to reframe that perception of the thing as threatening and scary. We want to reframe it as something that's positive. Clicking it and giving a treat is one way to do it. If that's not working for you, then do something else. But the goal is to reframe that. And then, as you know, we added this extra month. We're going into the end of December. We have another group meeting next week. I want to get you together before the end of the year, one additional time. But what I would like you to think about, just throwing this out as a challenge to think over. I know that 4 months is not enough time. I would like to continue working with all of you. And I want you to think about a way to do that that would make sense for you and that would work for you. And think about all the different aspects of what that would look like that would really be helpful to you. And I'll ask you your thoughts on that. So give it a little thought. Don't answer me now because I just asked the question. And you might want to think about it a little. Think about what that would look like going forward. I would really, really feel that continuing to support you and help you would be valuable to you, to all of you in your own unique ways, because what you're doing with your dogs is still a work in progress. So, and I don't want you to think that, when the end of this 4 months comes, that you should be done and everything should be all finished and you're done and you can just go on your merry way, because learning never works that way.
Just a quick question, Marilyn. Sure. I know you said to wait, but this has popped into my head. The website, the community that we have after the end of the month, is that something we would have continued access to share things, interact with each other? Or definitely, are we cut off and then the new group starts?
Well, that's the thing. See, I don't want to cut anybody off and just say, nope, you're all done. Goodbye, go away. I don't want to hear from you anymore. No, and that is certainly a piece to consider. That's definitely, I haven't made any decisions. I'm still working this out. That's why I'm asking you for some feedback about what you would like, rather than just have me come up with an idea that you may or may not feel good about. So that's why I want to get your feedback. But that certainly is a piece, and I think that it's an important thing. And I think the more we use that, and the more we interact, and I also have to tell you this, you know, the platform I use is Kajabi, and they're in the process of putting in a much more advanced version of their community site, with a lot more options, a lot more bells and whistles, a lot more advanced things. And you have to sign up to be on a wait list, because they're phasing people in gradually. They're not just suddenly moving over. They're phasing people in on a, you know, for beta testers, just to make sure they get all the wrinkles and the bugs out of it. But I signed up for the wait list, so I have no idea. But at some point, that member site is going to be a lot more useful. And I don't know exactly all of the ways, but it's going to have a lot more options than it has now. So that's something exciting to look forward to. I wish I knew when, but I don't. They're not telling me.
It'd be
Okay.
nice. I think Nancy's brought this up before, but yeah, we only get a notification if you post something, but we don't get notifications if the rest of us do. So frequently I'll go on there and then I just see all the things I've missed. So if hopefully that's part of the
That
next
might, yeah,
improvement.
that might change. But you know what I could do in the meantime is I could just post something and say, hey guys, there's new posts, and then check that, and then you'll know there's something there to look at. You can go look at it. I could do that, because I get notified. Even if you don't, whenever there's something new that goes up there as admin, I get a notification. So I can go in there and do that. I can do that. If I remember, I will. I will remember. Sometimes I make a note to myself to do something, and then I think I did it just because I made a note to do it. Beverly's laughing.
I can relate. That's why I'm laughing. I love it.
Oh God, I know. I need a new brain. Okay.
You
All
have
right,
a very
guys.
good brain. You have a good brain.
All right, I'm gonna let you go. We're just a little bit over, but I will post this recording as soon as it processes, and I'll see you all next Sunday. And meanwhile, you can meditate on my question. All right?
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
See
Thanks,
then.
everybody.
Don't forget
Good
to
night.
schedule your personals if you haven't.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye-bye.